Making a video. Yeah, it's been a little while. Lots of issues. Yeah, life is it's tedious and difficult and horrible and awful. Anyway, um, still can't hear. Broke one of my teeth. I mean, just it's kind of a lull. Dead period. Anyway, but I can't complain. The weather's been good. It's summer, you know. So, but I did just complain. Anyway, so there hasn't been much going on, obviously. It must have occurred to you also. There's nobody's saying anything rational at all. Nothing I can make any sense out of. So with this, I was thinking about this philosophy thing in the sense that there is something catastrophic here in the sense that the one of us is crazy kind of thing. If you're religious, let's say, and you're wrong, it makes you crazy, right? I mean, how wrong do you have to be before somebody calls you crazy? And I'd say that's a pretty significant, you got it wrong. Just like if there is a God, I've got it catastrophically wrong not to believe in him. I suppose the catastrophe is a little bit meaningless in the sense that it would only be my welfare in a sense that's at jeopardy. And maybe some fetuses somehow, because I'd be pro-abortion. And God doesn't like abortions apparently, but who knows for sure on that one, right? But whatever. I mean, the whole God thing is just so silly in so many ways. Just because, it's not really about merit or doing the right thing. It's just about being baptized or something, or saying in the trench, "I believe in you." Even after you sinned your whole life and were a mess. But anyway, it's just a silly concept. But it's a catastrophic error, in my opinion. I mean, you can whether we want to call it the God delusion or not, it's a catastrophic misunderstanding of reality. Huge miscalculation, and it can only lead to a preposterous failure. It's like somebody throwing the javelin the wrong way. I mean, not only are you not going to win the gold medal, you're probably going to kill somebody. Yeah, it's just fucked up. And the world's fucked up because everybody thinks they can just make this shit up. Nobody has to obey any kind of continuity rules. I mean, any at all. So I was just thinking in terms of, maybe just writing up some facts. The statements of fact. They're yes or no questions. The anti-Kantivides of the world would say, no, I'm not doing that. It offends my mishmush of a brain. This whole idea, I mean, it's just so, I mean, he's preposterous. He talks about how they're all legitimate philosophies. Well, of course, except for Stalin and Hitler, and, he'll give us the list of what's not acceptable, what's wrong, They're all legitimate perspectives from a certain perspective, except they're not legitimate. Of course, they're awful and evil. How can it be legitimate and wrong? Come on. That's what I mean. There's nothing to respond to because everybody's just fucking talking absolute shit. So anyway, I was just thinking in terms of this percentage. Give a number of. Obviously, I like. Obviously, it's not obvious to you, but yeah, it'd be nice to have like 1 to 100. And say 98%. But you could just do 1 to 10. And there's certain facts that maybe we could say, okay, yeah, everybody thinks that's a 9.9. Okay, I'm back to using 99. But anyway, like the Earth exists and it's a sphere and it's orbiting the sun, and the forces of nature, the laws of nature, gravity, these things are real. They're not figments of our imagination. The material universe exists. Can we just say, okay, let's give that one a 9 anyway, on the truth scale, on the certainty scale, and let's see where your certainty starts to falter. Apparently, there's a lot of wackos who think cardboard boxes have feelings. Dirt, grass, lawnmowers, bird dew, bird dew actually has consciousness. Yeah, a pile of bird dew on a statue is having an experience. What do you think the odds are that bird dew is conscious? I think the odds are 0. I don't think there's any possibility of that would be true. No possibility. I just so... You're just saying, oh, this is such a... You know, it's... When I thought people were at least somewhat not insane and crazy, you know, just a little bit stupid, I said, okay, well, this is doable, having a conversation. But you can't have a conversation with people that are fucking crazy. You people are fucking crazy. This gibberish. This make the universe go away, invent multiverses, and do this, do... What the fuck? Where do you get this shit from? Well, anyway. So I was just doing my normal thing, where I'm just always just figuring out how do we play with these words. So obviously we start off, you know, we got the life backward thing, the F-list, consumption, reproduction, addiction, parasitism, life is crap. Okay, I like that. Those are all 90%ers, consumption, reproduction, addiction, parasitism. Yeah, these are, to me, these are realities of evolution. This is what evolution does. So then, but I was thinking, okay, value. So it's a word I threw down. I said value. Okay, people don't think this exists. So they don't think outcomes matter. They don't think there's significant differences in outcomes. And you're just like, how could they not see significant difference in outcomes? I mean, an outcome where I'm totally pleasured and comfortable and, you know, feel wonderful. An outcome where I'm tortured. I'm supposed to somehow think those aren't significantly different outcomes. And then I can just expand that to say that every sentient being on Earth is tortured versus every sentient being comfortable and warm and cozy, and it's not significant. What do I think the odds are that that's not significant? It's not important. 0. 0. I mean, it's like I'm more certain that I'm more certain that outcomes matter than I am certain the Earth exists, in a sense. Anyway, so yeah, I just could, you know, you're trying to think of what the key thing is here. That you end up with these words like important or significant. You're just trying to get to this idea, you know, where there's something at risk, something at stake, something at consequence that has significance. So it's this idea of a consequentialness, or again, significance is the word I just ended up with. So I'll put a little sign. I have to make myself a signal. I'll just do a loop-de-loo signal. I need to add more. I need to find more words, more ways to describe this idea of what generates value. And clearly, obviously, I'm going to bend it back to the idea that what I know is significant is sensations. I know these are significant. It's significant whether or not I'm in horrible pain, or feel absolutely awful, or feel absolutely wonderful. I know this is a meaningful thing by being conscious. Anyway, I've already argued this, but it's just, I don't know how it's possible to be stuck with people who just aren't sure of that fact. And I just would like them to label it, like these nihilists who seem to have so much confidence. So you're absolutely 9.9% sure, very high level of certainty, that it doesn't matter whether I'm tortured or whether I'm comfortable. Really. It's an insignificant outcome. Either way, it's just fine. No problem. Nothing to see here. You're that certain? Or is it 50%? What's your certainty level? regarding the annihilation of the meaning or value of my experience. Anyway, so then getting to these feeling words, so the value words. So you start with good and bad. They seem obvious. And you're saying, okay, well, that's like negative and positive. And then you start going pleasure and pain, satisfaction, deprivation, comfort, discomfort, pleasant, unpleasant. So you're just stuck with this is part of the problem is we have a whole bunch of words and they don't add any real descriptive character. They just rely on each other to define each other in a way. I suppose satisfaction and deprivation are sort of interesting just because that's a kind of obvious kind of qualitative difference. But I suppose pain and pleasure are too, because even though they're made out of the same thing, obviously you can gain a great deal of pleasure through the experience of the cessating discomfort, suffering, pain. So anyway, then I got to the desire word: hunger, need, want, dependency, addiction. But they, again, how do you capture the essence of this character that we have, where we do need some things, and which of these needs are substantively meaningful or rationally significant. So obviously the biological ones are just a matter of staying alive. So yeah, you got to breathe, you got to eat, fluid, drink, and then we get into these more complex ones that have to do with our socialization. So that's when you run into this semi-part of this idea of versus the consumption. So yeah, that's the breathing and the eating and the drinking. And this reproduction thing isn't really about reproduction, it's just about sex, but sex leads to reproduction when it's not moderated by intelligence. But that's where the desire is. The desire is for the experience of sex. And that's where it gets even funkier, because you can have a rather, sort of learn from personal experience to some extent, you can have a rather rich sexual life without having any interaction with same sex or the opposite sex, any sex. You can just have a little head game. But yeah, it just kind of depends on how you've grown into your existence in terms of what you've been conditioned, your conditioning. And over time, those habits, those tendencies can change as perspective changes, as your cost to benefit analysis of what you're going to get for what you're going to get changes. But I've tried to make videos explaining this idea that that's all we really are, is a package of needs. And it's, I think, probably the most important conversation a human being can have is a conversation about taking control of that ambition, that desire, that necessity, that impulse, those drives, and to analyze them and see which ones you can moderate out of existence. I don't need to eat meat anymore. I don't have any hunger for it. There was a period where I still had a hunger, but I was certainly able to control it. I still hungry for, say, ice cream, but not enough to go back. So they're all over, we can moderate, how we act on these impulses. And by changing how we act on them, we can change how strong they are. We can weaken them through finding new means of expressing desire. We can desire to win a gold medal in the Olympics, or we can desire to win a Nobel Prize in medicine. I would say obviously one desire has a much higher potential to have valuable implication than the other, to have added value. Beyond just your satisfaction, there will be social value in you pursuing that desire. Um, but like I said, this is a huge conversation just about not only making us more civilized in how we interact with each other, more efficient in how we react with the world, how much we take and how much we give. But ultimately, I think it is a conversation that leads to an understanding that everything that attaches us to this world is just a bigotry, is just made out of kind of nonsense. There's no real need for any of us to be here. We're not going to achieve anything except clean up messes that shouldn't have been made in the first place. So yes, there's work to do. There's janitorial duties, but the game itself has no function, as the Martians are proving. The Martians aren't playing the game, and there's no tragedy. Not a single, not even a little bit of moisture in my eyes contemplating the non-existence of the wonderful Martian civilization. Nothing. Because it's not really meaningful. And Earthlings aren't meaningful in that sense. There's nothing to accomplish except to clean up the catastrophe, the mess we make, by being compelled by this addiction mechanism on an island planet which just creates a bunch of parasitism, where we just feed off of each other. We feed off of each other's labor and sweat and risk and death. Well, we all benefit from it, right? If people die in coal mines or in different places, and we benefit from their death. We profit from their loss. Yeah, and we even have systems that we all, many of us, think are valuable and worthwhile, and those systems, like Social Security, completely depend on stealing from the unlucky to give to the lucky. Yeah, that's right. The guy who lives early, doesn't collect, pays into the system his whole life, just loses, flat out just gets robbed. Not only does he get the unluckiness of a short life, he gets the unluckiness where he had to pay a bunch of taxes he'll never see any return on. So somebody who gets the benefit of a longer life, and he gets to live on somebody else's labor. I mean, on its face, it's parasitic. But that's how insurance works. That's how all these institutions, they all rely on stealing from the dead. Stealing from people who can't complain. Yeah, not great. Not a great idea. But anyway, so where else do I want to go? So anyway, I've made videos on this whole idea of being able to separate our psychology from philosophy. And it seems, the crickets, dead silence. Nobody wants to deal in those contexts. Nobody wants to deal with the fact that psychology is not philosophy. They don't want to acknowledge that that's just a fact. That your ambitions and your desires and your addictions are to be analyzed, not revered. Your high-minded sensibilities of what the proper color combination is for a bow tie really just don't mean a goddamn thing. The fact that you get off on that shit is just because you're a silly psychology. And it's true for all your entertainments. Every thought that gives you a little bit of pleasure is likely made out of that kind of psychological mush. Alright, so yeah, I've been through this before, but we have this basic biology that imposes a certain amount of psychology on us basic desires. And like I said, the basic desire, to say ego is a basic desire, yeah, the concept is basic. The concept of competing is a basic concept, but obviously it has huge tangles of nuance in how each one of us lives our lives and what kind of hopes we live on, and dreams and fantasies and all of that stuff. It's all made out of that thing, but there's a huge variety among people about what they think they're going to accomplish, what they think they are accomplishing. And that's just this. So once you're in the game, you're in the game. You're just very competitive. We're very competitive. We don't like to quit. We don't like to be failures. We don't like to give up. We don't want to be losers. This is all psychology that tends to make us justify shit, because it's our shit kind of a thing. It's like black people defending O.J. Simpson. It's just silly. So then you got, so that's the biological influence. Then we have this conditioned influence. So you get this basic biology that gives you a broad thing called ego. And now it's going to condition it so it will create your sexual orientation. And it will create your, whether you put your pinky out when you drink your tea, and your mannerisms and your manners, how you interact with the world, and how you've learned to interact, how you've learned to play your position in life. And so that's through conditioning. That's, a lot of it happens when you're very young. A lot of those habits you'll never break easily. I mean, they're just ingrained habits. How your eyebrows move, wrinkles in your forehead. I got a very wrinkled forehead because I did a lot of scowling. And I did a lot of squinting and scowling. So that's why I don't wear sunglasses, is because I guess I'm so used to squinting. But that's conditioning. And then you have this philosophy, this intelligent thing, where we can have a conversation about the fact that I'm just a byproduct of circumstances, of my maturation, what TV shows I watched, in what order I watched them, because that decided whether I thought something was ridiculous or foolish or stupid, or, did I watch the Cartoon Network, or did I watch the Serious Brain Network, or this kind of stuff. All these little subtle influences that changes our intellectual perspectives. That's a word that Antikandavad used a lot. Perspectivism even has an ism for it, where anything goes. But no, context and perspective and information and facts and knowledge, these are things that we can assess. And we can put a number on them. So I think that's sort of the obligation here, is to find out how loopy you fuckers are. And ask you some basic questions. I mean, do you understand? Do you believe in evolution? Is that a 9.9 fact? Do you understand what that means? Consumption, reproduction, addiction, parasitism? Do you understand that evolution doesn't have any mechanism to do anything admirable? It will kill 1 million babies, 1 million children, so one adult can have sex. It'll do that. It will torture things. It just doesn't give a shit about how you feel, or what you feel, or the quality of your existence. It only gives a shit, the mechanism, about how effective you are in monstering your way through this DNA, winning gold medal DNA competition. It's game day. You got to have the shit on game day, and game day is just about these non-existent rules. And the rules, and we are so obviously, anything good about us, anything generous or decent about us, usually has something to do with very indecent impulses. The indecent impulses of nepotism, of nationalism, of Me is, my kindism. This is what controls our generosity most of the time. And it's only through intelligence that we can see better, see a better context, and understand that's what evolution has done. It's created, in essence, a monster, and the monster can only be gracious or decent or good or significantly improved if it understands the world it exists in, if it understands the real context, the real perspective, the actual truth of our existence. And so again, this is one of those truths, though, is understanding evolution doesn't just mean some silly thing like survival of the fittest. You can't go that far. You got to go a lot farther than that to understand what exactly we have been, how we have been manipulated, how our entire being is a byproduct of this system, and that it's only in the last 20,000 years where we have augmented that biological system by taking care of the wounded or the sick, by changing the rules, by applying understanding. By understanding. Sympathy is a byproduct of understanding. You can't really identify with something else until you can understand identity. Not only yours, but theirs. So anyway, that's a huge word, this perspective and context. But truth is a huge word, and facts is a huge word. And these are real things. They're accurate descriptions of our reality. And to argue that we can split the atom, but we can't say, what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. We can't say God is bullshit as a notion. It's superstition. It's voodoo, for fuck's sake. It's absolute nonsense. And for some adult, educated human to sit there and say something stupid like, well, I think God is still a, there's a 98.8% chance that it's true. No, there isn't. It's silly. So anyway, that's what's on the paper. So I'm just going to keep doing this paper thing, I guess, but there's no real people to argue with, so I can only argue with my own arguments and try to find where people are missing my point. And my basic point is the truth is so fucking simple. It's so fucking obvious. The facts are right there, tangible, accessible. And these fucking assholes are just playing games with words, playing games with fantasies to sit there and recreate the universe into something that justifies psychological impulses. Bullshit in their fucking brains. Just absolute bullshit. And such a cheat. Because like I said, I think they know their psychology is shit. And they're just so desperate that they're going to defend it. It's like, I think there's a lot of meat eaters who know eating meat is just bullshit. But they're so addicted, and they think they're I don't know what they're afraid of. I mean, it really is a minor inconvenience to start taking meat out of your diet. I mean, just replace the meat in your meal with a Twinkie. It's really not hard to do. There's lots of good things to eat that aren't meat. And frankly, a Twinkie is going to be probably healthier than the meat. Vegetable oil Twinkie. I don't know if they're still using Crisco or something. But the point is you can, it just seems all this desperation for an imposition that is so minor. And it's just so minor. Yeah, I just popped in my head, the friendship I was talking about that kind of got ruined because, the person, and, after I've talked to them for years, and they said something like, I posed the question, would you give a kid cancer for anything a human being is doing on Earth? And he said, yeah, he would, for, like, housing for 10,000 people or something. And I was like, yeah, I mean, the 10,000 people just don't have a right to torture some fucking kid to have a house. It's just, sorry, I'd like them to have a house, but you still can't justify torturing a kid to have anything, to do anything in your life. You can't put torture into your gasoline tank and then drive your car. Torture? No. And that's the game we're in. And it's just not an acceptable game. I mean, right now, that's what you're doing, right? I mean, my father was, almost fatally burned in a chemical accident. And many people have been killed to produce gasoline. So you're actually putting dead people into your tank. People. My father was in the hospital for 2 years. 2 years in the hospital. You've put people in the hospital, to have the convenience of driving your car. And, yeah, it all seems like it makes sense when we're all just saying it's arbitrary straws that some arbitrary person's going to draw. But frankly, if I'm going to draw the straw, I'm not going to. Why would I play that game? If the straw is where I'm going to pull the straw, fuck that. I'm not doing anything important enough to pull that straw. Is there really something about your life you think is important enough for you to spend 2 years in a burn center having skin grafts every other day? I don't think so. Unless you're psychotic and crazy. And yeah, that's part of the problem here. You people are crazy. You're crazy, obsessed with justifying your trivial ambition and desire. I want to have a baby. I want to play with a human life. I mean, I did that too in a video. He says, I'm not going to psychologically manipulate my child. Well, you had it. You already psychologically manipulated it. You can't sit there. It's just such a cop-out. I'm not going to apply psychology or methods. Well, if you think the method might work, you better try it. That's your responsibility. You made this mess, and now you're just going to let it be a mess? That doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to make the damn thing, then make it. Create it. All the way. You either do it all the way or you don't do it at all. What's that line? Do a job well or don't do it at all. Yeah, I mean, fuck you. I'll let society raise it. I'll let the village do it. I'll let TV raise it. Oh, fuck you. That's just such a... But that's something he had to do in life somehow, right? No. The trivial desire, like wearing cashmere socks or something. I think that's how much he gave a shit about the decision. Whatever. People just fucking amaze. It just amazes me just to realize, Charlton Heston line. It's a madhouse. This is Planet of the Dumb Motherfucking Apes. You people aren't even close. And this is so, again, it's just so fucking simple. The truth of our existence is so fucking simple. The physical world is simple. The mechanics of evolution are simple. The idea of, driving this thing with this negative energy and then, apply the whip and then make it think it's winning because you stop whipping it. Wow. And you're gamed by that. You're owned by that. You're controlled by that. You can't figure that out. Anyway. Enough of a video. So, till the next time, and such. So forth and whatnot. And you know, the other thing, and a kind of like, sorry. I ended the video, I should just end. But again, he uses this word like dogma. Like there's some kind of dogma. I'm like, what's this dogma? In what form is it in? You know, evolution is dogma? Taking it seriously as a creative process is dogma? Understanding that it has rules and laws is dogma? Oh, fuck. Till next time, and such.